Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, most of us are actively looking to avoid advertising and marketing.
What?
I know that's
you say that as a marketer?
Difficult to say as a marketer, but let's be honest.
I get your vibe, right? Yeah, it's like you don't want to be inundated.
Yeah, there's all these options to like to depersonalize yourself when you're on the web or on your phone. Yes. We pay to avoid ads on streaming services now. You can pay extra.
This is true. Yes, pay just pay a little extra, ads. And you don't have to.
We're just kind of trained to gloss over and be annoyed by and avoid ads whenever possible. It always still cracks me up, my son, when we have to watch linear television,
Linear television? Okay. I like
not on streaming.
That's just old people.
And a commercial starts and he's like, Daddy, why can't you fast forward this? Daddy,
right.
Why are we watching these commercials? Yes. Whereas once upon a time, ads were all about like, hey kids, make your parents buy this thing for you. So getting attention, a little bit harder than ever.
It is.
Harder to accomplish.
Yes.
But here's something that we all are dealing with and get every day: packages.
Yes.
Whether at your home, your business.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know about you, but there's packages showing up at my door
almost
practically
daily.
Every day.
Yes. Yeah.
Most of them are not for me. My wife likes to joke that I only order the boring stuff, and all the fun stuff is the stuff that she gets.
Yes.
But so imagine what if your next delivery could be a marketing vehicle?
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
What if the shipping label itself
could
convey some messages and marketing? And
as a marketer, I love this idea.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're talking about that today.
Well, there you go. Okay.
I didn't just randomly bring this up for no good reason. We've got Tessa Kohl back on the program with us from Epson.
Nice.
We're going to be talking about marketing with shipping labels.
All right, sir.
A unique way maybe you can go out to your customers and help them change up their shipping practices, in the world of supply chain and retail and manufacturing, whatnot.
All right.
To, convey some more messages, with the shipping labels. So we're going to explain why these labels need an upgrade. We're going to talk about, what people are doing with their labels and why now.
Nice.
How does customization fit in? Can you do some customization here? And then how is this actually going to help shippers and distributors and warehouses or whatever to save money, improve processes?
Yes.
It's all about,
it's all about the bottom line.
Yeah. You be able to go out and convince your customers that like, hey, you should work with me and we can do this for you because it's going to improve your business, which is, I think it's
generally
most of
what
our
we
VAR's
like to do.
goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
For sure.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR. What's TEConnecting with us? It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our returning guest is Tessa Kohl, a product manager for DX Solutions at Epson.
Nice.
You might recall Tessa was just on a couple months back talking about KDS.
Yes.
And as we were joking before we came on, apparently they liked us so much and enjoyed, or got forced into working with us again to come back on the show. Again, we don't get a lot of these repeat guests so quickly. So either Tess is doing something wrong, or maybe we actually did something right. And
I think she pulled the short straw and had to join us one more time. Yes.
Exactly. So welcome back. We appreciate having you back on the show. And since we, got the nice introduction with you last time, I have a simple, quick question for you to get us into this conversation. How many packages do you get each week? How much shows up at your house?
Oh man. All right. Well, first of all, good to be back. Good to see you guys. Most of the time I would say I only a couple of months because I try really hard not to be constantly ordering stuff. But I will say I did move recently and I've been ordering a lot of stuff. So
that makes sense.
A few a week is what I'm at right now.
All right. Okay. That's fair.
That makes sense.
It ebbs and flows. It does ebb and flow.
After a move, you're going to need more stuff.
For sure.
And find new things you didn't have or forgot to bring with you or something,
Yep.
I get that. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, then let's get into this conversation. Let's talk about what's happening in the world of shipping and labeling and the potential marketing aspects that VARs could take advantage of here. So again, so many packages are moving about since the pandemic now. There's just more and more stuff coming to our doors than ever, whether it's, groceries or just people buying everything they can off of, Amazon or their favorite retailers. And, obviously the last mile, third party, ship to home, all this stuff has just changed the game dramatically. So But why do the shipping labels themselves need an upgrade? What's happening here that's kind of built this conversation around how to improve your shipping labels?
Right. Well, I mean, the first thing I'd say is it's about time, right? So imagine you went to the grocery store and you look at the cereal, and the cereal is just a plain brown box with a white label on it, and it says cereal, and then it has a barcode, and then it has a bunch of codes that you don't understand, bunch of strings and numbers.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of experience is that, right? But that's the kind of the experience that happens when you get a box on your doorstep. Is you get there's a box and there's a label on it. Sometimes there's the custom boxes and things like that, but the majority of the time, it's a plain box with a label that means absolutely gibberish to you.
Yep.
Your name's in the corner, but other than that, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So frankly, it doesn't really make sense. It's really an old-fashioned. It's boring. There's a missed opportunity there.
I like that. There is a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
As you were speaking, I looked it up. There's 21. I think it's 21 billion parcel packages in the U.S. alone. So talk about opportunity, Tess. I mean, come on.
Is that like monthly, weekly?
I think that's an annual number.
An annual. Okay.
Yeah.
Still, that's a ridiculous amount.
And I love the world that you just painted. That's Dick Tracy. For those of you that remember, it's like a can that just had the word coffee on it. A box that has the word cereal on it.
You just aged yourself with a Dick Tracy reference.
It's even worse because it doesn't just have coffee, but it has coffee and a bunch of gibberish that you don't understand, right?
That's so true.
That is a great point, though, because, again, we get a lot of packages at our house, and I'll get them, and, like, let's say 3 or 4 show up at a time, and I'm sitting there picking them up, and I got to, like, squint because it's in tiny little font, like, name and address on there. So I got to figure out, like, is this one of mine? Is this my wife's? Like, where's this from? Half the time you can't recognize where it came from, and so you have no idea necessarily what it is, because it'll either have, like, just fulfillment, facility or whatever, or again, just some kind of random third-party label that got slapped on there or whatever, and giant barcodes, maybe other random stickers slapped across. It's a good point. I mean, it's a great
boring point, because when you think about some of these like consumer product goods, I mean, just think about the amount of time that Apple puts into engineering like their box.
Right.
They want that whole experience, and it's like, they must have a design team just on their packaging, only to have that go in a brown box that has nothing on it,
except for that that lithium battery label they'll slap on something. To warn people there's batteries.
I mean, as a marketer, this just rings so true. It's like, oh, okay, we can spend all this time on branding and the experience and all these wonderful things. Well, the first experience I'm going to have with it, brown box, plain, So it's time, right? That's what Tessa's advocating. It's time. It is time to up the game a little bit.
Time to get your shipping labels updated. All right, so then let's talk about what's happening here then, because we've had some folks from Epson on in the past that have talked to us about color labeling. So we understand the advantages of color, that it makes things pop, it makes things a little more readable, can help you identify which things you need to be paying attention to and don't. But what else are the retailers, fulfillment centers, manufacturers, what else are they starting to add to their shipping labels, and why, in order to make them stand out a little bit more?
Right. So there's sort of 2 categories here. One is there's labeling that's color labeling that's already happening, but it's not happening as efficiently as it could. So let me start there. So right now, you mentioned the lithium-ion batteries. That's a perfect example, right? Some packages, there's certain regulatory requirements based on what's in the package, lots of other factors that are going on where they need to put specific labeling, and a lot of those labels are color. So the labels, marks that are required, they need to be placed on certain packages, and they need to be placed, to spec, right? Right size, right coloring. Right now, what folks are in a lot of cases have been doing is they have a pre-printed roll of those labels, and somebody has to go and know which label goes on which box, and they pick them, and then they slap them on the box. And so now you've got this multi-step process. You've got the shipping label, but you've also got potentially multiple other labels on the box. You might have one that says fragile or this side up, other shipping and handling things. So, and you want those in color, you want those to pop, but is that really the most efficient way to do it? Grabbing them and putting them on the box, right? The other category is, it's coming back to that marketing side. So, we have some folks starting, have been especially I'd say in the past few years, experimenting with custom boxes, custom, packaging, tape, things like that. And that stuff is great. That stuff can also be pretty expensive. So it's there's some opportunities there for looking at, okay, what am I already printing every time, right? Which is the shipping label, and what am I doing that could potentially be different each package, right? You buy custom, packing tape, or you buy a custom branded box that might have your brand, but is it going to be able to be different for different types of customer, different profiles of customers? It can add a lot of complexity to be able to try and pull all those materials, and now you have all these different boxes. Right now you're adding complexity, and you might be adding more cost than you're really getting. So it's a complicated area, but there's a bunch of different places where the color comes into play. Either it's already being used, or they want to use it, but it can be a little labor intensive.
Right. Well, what about the marketing angle here then? Because it's a big part of obviously what we were thinking about when we were talking about this is what are people doing to their shipping labels to help them spread marketing messages? What does that look like? What does a new dynamic label that is also a marketing tool look like when someone slaps it on a package?
Absolutely. So essentially, what we've been doing, at Epson, and what we've been looking and helping people with is expanding on that shipping label. So something you're already printing, something that is already dynamic based on each package, and can be printed just as one step. So what it essentially will look like is, first of all, we're going to preserve what the carrier needs. We're not going to mess with that barcode.
Right.
As ugly as it might be to the consumer, right? It serves an incredibly important purpose.
Yes, very
The
important.
last thing you want to do is that. So we preserve the original label, but what we do is we add content at the top and bottom. So you could add dynamic images as basically as tall as you want, and just making them 4-inch wide to match that shipping label. So a 4-inch by 4x2, 4x4, even longer, dynamic content that can go on the top or bottom of the shipping label. And the other thing that we can do, and this is sort of on the process improvement side, is we can colorize pieces within the label. So calling things out within the label. Again, not changing the text, not messing with the barcode, but just if there's, if it says the word priority, why not make that red, especially if there's something on the operation side that you want to do. But a lot of the marketing is really just, hey, you're printing something already. Let's print something a little bit longer that's got gorgeous full color marketing, and that's going to pop because it's completely different than what people are doing with, shipping labels historically.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like I'm going back to old cartoons today. I don't know why. Dick Tracy, but now I'm thinking Bugs Bunny. Remember Bugs Bunny with the suitcase and he had stickers all over it? Well, I mean, that's what a box can look like, right? Yeah. It's like, to Tessa's point, I'm going to slap on the fragile or the fragile sticker. And then you've got, whatever.
You're full of pop culture references today.
Totally today. It just gums it up, right? But from a marketing perspective, wouldn't it be nice to have that nice and clean on one label? Yeah. So, okay, I got my priority indicators I got to put on there, right? Like this is a priority shipment or whatever, or, destination labels that need to be a part of it, or it's customized in some way. And I like where you're going, Tessa. Like, you can individualize this down to the label, down to the package of that level of customization. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, that's exciting, right? Now we've got this palette of workspace that we can use. We can clean it up. We can make it look a little bit more uniform or a little bit more professional than just slapping a bunch of stickers on it, and which is a highly inefficient process. Yeah. That I think Tessa pointed out. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems to me also it's a waste of good space.
Sure.
I mean, if you're a marketer and you've got a nice big canvas to work on, you're going to fill that canvas as much as you possibly can, right?
Yep.
To me, it's like two things that made me think of is one, you've got these big widescreen HD TVs nowadays. Do you ever try to watch like an old show from like pre 2000s that's still in like the square box?
My Bugs Bunny cartoon, yes.
Sure. Your Dick Tracy and your Bugs Bunny cartoons. Good grief, Dean.
Looks terrible, right?
I need to share you some modern programming. But yeah, it does. It looks bad because you got all this empty blank space. To me, it's the same as a box, or like, let's say a billboard. Let's say you go out and rent a billboard, and it's like 100 feet wide, but you're only putting a 10-foot wide message on it. That's just why did you waste all that extra space? And to me, a box can kind of be the same way. Depending on what you're ordering and how big the box is, there might be plenty of room to do a little bit more than just, the address label. Why not fill it up with something? People are going to see this box. They're going to take it into their homes. It might sit there for a bit. They might be breaking it down and seeing the stuff that's on it or something. I mean, why not add to that canvas since you actually have it there in front of you?
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
So Tessa, you've mentioned this kind of like dynamic type of labeling, and so that gets us into the customization side here. Let's talk a little bit more about that and maybe share some examples of where it makes sense to go out and print different types of labels based on where it's shipping, what the contents are, when it's going out, and who's going to be receiving it. What's happening there on the customization side?
Absolutely. So there's a ton of different reasons that you would want to customize this, right? Yeah, it's nice to put, maybe put your logo every time, but realistically, you want to speak to the customer at the stage, sort of the customer journey that they're at. So, one thing that you might want to do is customize based on types of products that they're purchasing, right? You can establish product categories, and you don't have to have, let's say you've got, 1,000 products in your category. You don't have to have 1,000 different, promotions or advertising images, but, let's distinguish between, whether they're buying, home goods or office supplies or shoes, right? If you have major product categories that you can divide into, or major customer segments that you have, you can identify those, and then as the label's printed based on who it's going to, you can print the appropriate label. Some other things that you can do here is if you're printing if you're printing QR codes, for example, as part of that image, you can have a dedicated QR code for each customer segment for a particular promotion, and have people actually scan that on the box, and now you've got a customer touch point and that was customized for that particular group of customers. And then you can use that to drive people to an app, maybe, right? Or drive people to a rewards program, or just turn them into someone who's going to come back and going to order again, in whatever way.
There are so many. I mean, when I think about it, like what customization could you do, or what would be a good fit around that? There's just a lot of to me. You could regionalize, right? I mean, you have packages that if you're a manufacturer and you have regional return policies or ways in which you want people to facilitate that, right? Like what happens after I get the package? Well, you can put that on the label. You could do feedback forums, where it could be a code or it could be something like that, or it's just advocating that they give you feedback on the shipment that they just got, or instructions, the old open me first documentation type of stuff. That you could be on there. It could be a thank you, like, hey, thanks for doing business with us, type of a thing. So all that from a manufacturer standpoint is good. And then, Tess, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, a lot of our resellers work with 3PLs, or 4PLs or whatever. This is because we're looking into it. After we did the last podcast, I got Tessa in contact with Alex Bowles on our side. We should be offering this service. Yeah. Why are we not offering this service where we can, because in essence, we're a 3PL a lot of times for a lot of our customers. Hey, customer, we can add more marketing, more messaging. What do you want to put in? What are some things you could put on here? And at least have that dialogue and offer up that service. There you go. So anyway, there's a lot on the customization side, if you ask me.
Man, I like this stuff too. I mean, Tessa, go ahead. What were you going to say there?
I was just going to add another one that I really like that has come up is especially the closer we get to the holidays, is imagine if you have something outside the box that says, don't open till Christmas, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Because that's where you need it, right?
Yep.
You can have custom gift messages inside. That's nice. But if you're a brand who can provide that, it just makes everybody's lives easier when sending a gift. Don't open till this date or things like that.
And it's
that's
a little bit of
huge opportunity that doesn't make sense to go anywhere else.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And you bring a little bit of joy to the person that receiving the package too. That little spark of like, oh, this is neat. I wasn't expecting something like this. And this stuff, as we start talking about this more, and as I was thinking about this, I'm like, man, I put my marketing hat on and I started thinking, most, let's say we're talking about retail in particular here, which is, I think, where we're talking about a lot of this stuff happening is, retailers shipping goods to consumers. I mean, it can definitely be in our world too. But I think on the retail side in particular, all right, if you've shipped something to someone, it's probably because they purchased something online, which means you probably have a lot of data that you've already collected about who they are, what they like, what they've purchased in the past. It's the kind of stuff that when you're online, they use to target you with, hey, here's ads about products you might enjoy, or hey, you purchased this last time, maybe you might be interested in this, or hey, you haven't bought from us in a while, here's a 15% off coupon, etc. That same kind of application of the data you've collected from your customers can go straight into those labels as well. You could apply that there as well, where it's maybe you're not getting, because again, there's a lot of things that people can do to kind of limit what's being tracked, what they're doing online. There's more and more security around the cookies that can be tracked by you, or what's going on your phone when you're using it. So if you're missing a lot of that information, you don't have a lot of that data, and you're not able to target them directly because of that in those places, again, that box can be a very simple way to get a message to someone in front of their face that is going to the person you want it to go to, and with a message that you want to deliver to them, whether that is, hey, here's a coupon code for your next purchase, thanks for buying from us, whether it's the regional thing like we were talking about, like just something as simple maybe as, one of those things I always know that stands out to me is whenever like a new season is getting ready to start for the Reds or the Bengals, for instance, where we are, and everything in the area starts seeing random little pop-up marketing of like it's got
Tiger
the Reds
print
logo on it, or Bengals logos on it, or something, stuff that otherwise normally has nothing to do with it. Or the beer companies that start shipping their cans with with
Bengal stripes on it.
Exactly. That's the kind of stuff you could do that again would just, even if it's not a direct one-to-one correlation of this person sees this label on the package and therefore will take an action based on it, it could be something as simple as like, hey, this feels like it's more personalized to me, like the Christmas thing. It feels like it's about me and who I am and what I'm interested in, because it's got a little bit of something that matters to me. And I feel like that kind of stuff can really stand out and can make a difference. Again, with that giant canvas you've got to work with. And those captive moments you get, because again, you got a few minutes there where even if someone takes that box, opens it up immediately and takes their stuff out, you got a few minutes there where they are intently looking at that box and they're going to see whatever you've got on there. So I love this kind of stuff. I think this is a great way to just, drive a little bit of extra attention.
I also like yes, absolutely. The subliminal kind of next move, like, so you get the box and it says something like, you've got a fantastic Epson printer that you just purchased. That's great. By the way, here are some of the consumables, or something like that. Or, let us help you with some of the receipt paper. I'm thinking of a receipt printer now. But I mean, those are nice ways that, you can actually add to your customer service. You're showing a need or a desire to help them with some of the consumables and stuff like that in that particular situation. So I'm with you. I think there's a lot if you just get creative about it.
It is. That's what's fun about this conversation, because, as we're talking to our VAR audience and ISV audience, this is something that could not only be something that benefits your customers, you can go out and sell them these Epson products, which, by the way, we're going to get to how Epson's going to help you out with that here in a bit. But it's also something you could do in your own business.
Right.
You could be doing this with your customers, and you could be going out to your customers and showing them how they can do that with their eventual end users as well. So,
all
right. And if they don't want to do it, then, like if they really don't want to use that space for themselves, why not sell that as ad space?
Right.
You're now offsetting the increasing cost of shipping with saying, all right, we're going to use this space, but maybe we're going to sell this space. Again, we have that open canvas.
That is an
basically
excellent
do what
point.
we want with.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Go out there, make
I
some
imagine
use
somebody
out of
like
it, yeah.
if you're shipping, I don't know, computer goods around and stuff like that, Intel might pay to have a nice little logo right there.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Hey, there really is Intel inside.
Exactly.
Kind of a thing. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to the heart of this, because I think what everyone might be asking is like, all right, well, how does this improved labeling actually help them beyond trying to maybe just generate more revenue or that, customer interaction? How is it actually going to help them save the shippers themselves, save some money, improve their operations too?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that first of all, if you do want to sell that space, that's an incredible opportunity. We know that there's a market for that. Partly just based off of what people have done for even longer, which is the drop-in labels, right? If you've ever gotten you've gotten a meal kit and you maybe open it up and it's got an advertisement for fancy dog food,
Right.
or other things like that. You have this. We know that there's a market, and we know that we have folks really interested in purchasing that space. So first of all, if you want to make money that way, this is a great opportunity. Otherwise, it's a really great way, as I said, to just utilize a process that you're already doing, right? You're already printing that label. You're already doing that step. It's going to be a much lower barrier than a lot of other areas that you might want to get into. So it can be a really cost-effective way to get your message out there and create a curated experience. And then, of course, on the operations side, it comes back to some of the key values of on-demand printing, that if you've heard Epson talk about label printing, you've heard this. You've heard the value of going from 2-step, 3-step processes to just 1 step and go, right? And the ability to have not only that it print all as one, but not having to go and pick and manually decide, okay, this label goes here and this label goes here, and making sure that you got everything. That's a huge boost to operations that you can use that time and that money elsewhere.
Absolutely. I like the operation angle. I mean, when you think about it, we spend so much time just trying to increase efficiencies of warehouses and inventory management and things like that. You can obviously boost that, when you find out where the flaws are in the system, or if there's something that needs to be communicated visually, a much better way of doing that. I mean, you're reducing errors, you're increasing efficiency through these types of things. And sometimes it's a harder sell because it's a soft sell, on the operation side, but it's truly there, and in the ability to do that through these types of labeling systems.
Yeah, hard agree. I'm all for this stuff. I think it's a great and easy message to tell about why, again, it can potentially help you get more money out of your customers. But yes, help your own operations. And some of it maybe just as simple as like bringing more clarity to your labeling for the deliverers, to deliver stuff to the right places, for internal people too. Like I think about again, like this is especially true, I think, if you are shipping B2B in some way, like that is where sometimes, I think back to my days in retail when I used to get the giant shipment of boxes once a week that came in the back door. Back then, it was just all these bunch of boxes that were all the exact same size and just had that one label on it with a barcode.
Oh, spend 2 hours trying to figure out where all this stuff goes.
Boring. Yeah, exactly. Imagine if those had a little bit more to them to tell me like, hey, here's your new releases or something that need to be put aside somewhere else. Here's
sci-fi.
Here's hot items that need to, to go out right now. Just little stuff like that could benefit someone who's receiving all this packages to know what's the priority, what should I work on first, what do I do with these things that I get. Maybe even just to tell the delivery folks too, like, hey, this box, seriously, it's fragile. Don't fling it on someone's porch when you bring it up there. The little things like that, I think they can go a long way to, preventing potentially returns and preventing, mix-ups and errors during the process of packing and picking and shipping.
The other part of this I like is that it, when you talk about automation integration, right, this is getting your end user and the reseller to think a little bit more critically about the operation process. Labeling is just one of those manifestations that you really got to think it through. And so when you start thinking it through and what you can do with it, you really start thinking about, well, what is the WMS, and can this do this, and what does it mean to our customers to receive our packages that are so bland and things of that nature. So I mean, I really think it opens the door to a lot of that conversation, and maybe improving some of the automation that is happening within the location. So anyway, there's a lot of good reason to bring this topic up,
yes,
if you ask me.
I agree. All right, well, in a moment, we're going to let Tessa tell us about how Epson is obviously going to help you do this. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if Epson didn't have a reason to talk about it. So
they do color labeling?
yeah, it's a little bit. It's a little part of their business.
Yeah.
We want to, as always, thank our sponsors here on the TEConnect podcast. A big thank you to Epson for lending us Tessa, not just once, but twice
now
this year to talk about these things, and for supporting our TEConnect program and the podcast. Hey, if you like this show, let's say this is your first episode you've watched. Maybe you're like, man, I really want to know about marketing labeling stuff, and this is your first time checking it out. Well, hey, a few things you should do. Go subscribe to the podcast. Just wherever you're at, whether you're listening on your audio platform, you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Share it with someone. If there's someone you think they would benefit from this conversation or might be interested in some of these insights, send it over and share it with someone. And of course, tell us how you feel about the show. Leave us comments, send us an email. Just let us know what you got going on, and share your ideas of what you want to hear about on the podcast. We got a pretty big backlog of episodes these days. There's a lot of stuff in there. And if you share an idea like, hey, I'd love to hear about this, and it's something we already did, I'm happy to say, hey, guess what? We already covered that in this episode, but hey, maybe we can revisit it again. But either way, we got to know what you want.
Yeah.
You got to tell us. So if you do that, send an idea into us. There's always a link in the show notes. You can always email it to us as well. We will send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt just for submitting those ideas to us.
Yes.
I mean, again,
it's a great shirt.
It's a great shirt. It's comfy. It's soft, like why not?
Absolutely.
It's got a great new design. Marco put a great new design together for the new one this year. So we really appreciate it, and you guys are going to want it. So feel free to reach out to us. You can always find us on LinkedIn, BlueStar's LinkedIn page. You can find us on BlueStar's Facebook page. Any of those places, look for our recaps, leave us a note there, or email us at any time, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap up, as always, a little value to the VAR here.
Yes.
And again, if you've been listening to this conversation, you're thinking, all right, this all sounds great, but how do I make this happen for my customers?
Now what do I do?
Well, Epson has a solution for you. It's called Label Boost. You mentioned the boost word earlier, boost your marketing. I don't know if that was intentional, but you had some synergy.
I didn't realize it. Yeah, man. Maybe it was subliminal. Right? Yeah.
So tell us more about this, Tessa. Tell us more about Epson's software for creating these dynamic and versatile labels.
Right. So Label Boost I think it's really exciting, and what I like about it is that it's simple, and I mean that in the best way possible, right? So what Label Boost does is it's designed to allow you to, let's quote unquote boost, right? Boost your labels, add that marketing, do everything that we just talked about, while still keeping the bulk of your label creation process the same. What we don't want to do is say, great, you can do this sort of thing, but you have to tear out your WMS, or you have to hire developers and write an integration and write all this stuff. So what we did with Label Boost is we came in and said, what's the solution that can allow you to drop this into your existing process that you probably don't want to touch unless you have a good reason, and get all this functionality, but keep your shipping labels, created the same way. And that's exactly what we've done. So with Label Boost, it can fit into your existing process if you're using, a shipping label creation tool, right? A carrier software, or other label software. You essentially set that to point to Label Boost, and it prints, quote unquote, prints to Label Boost as if it was a printer. And then Label Boost takes that data, modifies it based on some rules that you've created, and then spits out that final modified, enhanced label, and sends that data to an Epson ColorWork printer, where you can get that full color and really do justice by, what you're going to, the sort of marketing that you're going to be printing. So the solution allows you to set rules and different actions based on criteria in the shipping label. So things like the destination of the package, other codes or item category data that you add to that label. You can also, of course, add time frames, so you can set up marketing campaigns ahead of time, and you can say put these labels, these labels from this date to this date, and then as soon as that rolls over, start printing the next ones for labels coming out. So it's a really clean solution, and it keeps you from having to really rethink a lot of your core IT there.
That's what's so brilliant about this particular solution. You can it integrates what I can determine is so seamlessly, right? So you send a print job, the system intercepts that print job. Right. It adds this customization that you did, prints it, and then away you go. But you got to go to Epson.com and search on this label boost, because they have examples on their site. They're all phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, you will instantly get it visually. I'm a visual guy, right? So if you show me what it can look like, well, there you go. Yeah. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm all about this too. And I think the two things that Tessa said that I appreciate are simple and being able to just drop it in. Because we've had these conversations about warehouses and distribution and how difficult it is for them to upgrade technology, because it can disrupt processes. Yep. It can it's the kind of thing like, I can't shut down my business and my shipping processes for a day or two to install some new software, rewrite code, and do all this brand new stuff. Right. What we're suggesting here is, no, you don't have to do that. And I think that can be a great message for your customers, for you and your business, or for your customers to go to them and say, hey, you know what? This is clearly, to me, this is one of those things. It's like, it's clearly a win and a need that anybody should look at and say, all right, I can see the benefit of doing this. But then when you get to follow that up with, and by the way, it will be very simple for us to implement this. Yes. We're not going to disrupt your operations. You're not going to have to do a massive overhaul. There's not going to be critical, huge changes to what you're doing. We're just going to drop this in and create an extra piece of your workflow that will add this dynamic labeling. Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't want that? That's fantastic.
And even better for you, I'm on their website right now. You can get a 30-day free trial.
There you go.
So if you're easy, just go and try it for a little bit.
Yeah,
drop it in.
Go check out the show notes. There'll be a link to Label Boost there, or that you can learn more about that. Or don't hesitate to reach out to our Epson team, to Tessa, to anyone on the Epson the crew, and they'll be happy to explain more about this and get you on board. So, yes. Label Boost from Epson.
Label Boost.
Some good stuff there. Yep. All right, let's wrap up as always with What's Tech Connecting with You. This is where we get to talk about something in the world of tech, science, innovation, business, whatever we just feel like chatting about today. Tessa, what's Tech Connecting with You now?
All right. So I think maybe I covered this a little bit when we talked, is that I'm a little bit of an AI skeptic, and so that's something that I'm looking at a lot of the news coming out these days. And one of the things that caught my mind was, have you heard about this recall program that Microsoft was working on for Windows?
No, what's that?
So this was announced a while back. The idea is that it uses AI to allow you to search on past things that you've done on your PC.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I remember this, yeah.
To make it work, essentially, it records everything you do on your PC. It's taking screenshots every few seconds. It's recording your communications and apps and live meetings. And as you might imagine, even if you're not a skeptic, this was announced and everyone went, oof, that's a little scary.
Seems a little invasive, but yes, go ahead.
I don't know if I want that, right? Useful,
right?
Also scary.
Yeah.
So, what happened recently was, Microsoft came back and said, all right, we've done a little bit of a redesign, and they're coming back with things after they sort of got put through the ringer from security experts and things like that.
Yeah.
We got to see some news about the newer, version that they've updated, things like keeping it local, keep it private on device, keeping it better encrypted. It's opt-in rather than opt-out. All those sorts of best practices. The reason this stood out to me was just like, we're starting to see, I think, this sort of pie in the sky, what if AI stuff start to come a little bit more down to earth, and I hope that we can come down to earth more.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, and I think that's a good thing, right? It means that people are actually looking at, okay, not just like what could we do theoretically, but what actually makes sense, what is practical, what is environmentally friendly, what is safe. So, just seeing that sort of interesting idea, but a little bit much, and then seeing how they're sort of coming down to earth, that's an overall trend that I'm looking at. I think it's interesting.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciate that Microsoft at least did a little bit of diligence to take a look at this before just shoving it out there and making us all deal with the consequences.
Right.
That they should have thought about this ahead of time. This feels like to me a bit of a no-brainer to think about this one ahead of time.
Yep.
But at least they gave it some thoughts.
I think there's a little bit of a rush around the AI stuff. Some people are not really taking the time to think, and that is not specific to Microsoft by any means. But maybe now some people are taking some time to think, and that's a good thing.
I agree. Yeah.
To reference why I frequently referenced, terrible future technology of the Terminator.
Yes.
Be like, building Skynet and just being like, all right, we're pushing out Skynet today. It's going to take care of all of your military operations. We're good to go. If you want to opt out, you can opt out. Just click over there, and that's terms and conditions or somewhere.
Yeah,
and then going, oops, sorry about that. We might have started the apocalypse. Maybe not. We're not quite at that high of stakes, but the kind of stuff I still would like companies to give at least a few extra thoughts to, and just ask around a little bit before they decide to roll these things out. So, but again, at least putting it out there and be like, hey, let's do a big public announcement about how we're going to do this, and then seeing the backlash hit and go, this light bulb appearing above their head.
Yeah, it's better if you think of it first, but listening is a good start. Listening afterwards is something.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good stuff. Dean, what's TEConnecting with you?
Do you like fungus?
Not particularly.
Mushrooms. Well, I don't know. Yeast. Tessa, you like mold and cheese.
Can be useful. Yeah,
that's all fungi.
They're fascinating.
They are fascinating. Well, I've got a reason for you to like them even more, because there are some types of fungus apparently that eat plastic. Right. So researchers discover fungus capable of breaking down plastic polyethylene, the most common type of plastic polluting the world's oceans. Right. We've all heard about these big oceans of plastics that's just floating out there. Okay. So researchers, marine microbiologists at the Royal Netherlands Institute, have determined that the fungus, and all right, I'm going to try to say it, but Paraginidiotium album, that was killed it, right? I guarantee you that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, we're just going to call that, PA, is a fungus that lives naturally in a marine microbe, but they found that, this one particular one, that when you put it on plastic polyethylene, it will start breaking it down. And now the only bad side is obviously it's giving off CO2 when it does but they equate it to the same amount as releasing when humans release a breath. So it's not like it's a lot, right? It's a little bit. It can break down plastics at 0.05% per day. So that sounds great, but then when you run the math real quick, 0.05% means it would take it 5.5 years to break down a piece of plastic, which still isn't the end of the world. I mean, at the end,
better than nothing, I guess.
If you got a water bottle floating out there, so 5.5 years, put this fungus on it, it'll eat it away. But at least we got something, right?
Meanwhile, how much more trash and plastic we piled up?
Of course, yes. Fascinating looking, but
this is one of those things where it makes me think, are we just really rapidly heading towards the WALL-E world? The movie WALL-E, where it's just stacks of trash,
stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, they would be depleting by some measure every 5.5 years.
I guess so.
There you go.
I think it's fascinating.
There's some hope.
There's some hope. But it cracks
me up. At least there's fungus that eats plastic.
It wouldn't be the first time that fungus saved humanity if you consider penicillin.
That's a good point.
Okay. That's a great point. There you go. It's our hero. It's our little knight in shining armor.
I do think it's funny when we decide to turn to the natural world to fix the unnatural problems.
Yes, get us out of our mixes that we've created here.
Hey, nature, fix this problem that we're using that's already half destroying you. Please, go ahead and take care of that for us.
So what's TEConnecting with you?
All right, I'll get back into the natural world here a little bit too. And also the idea that, we talk so much about space exploration, all the things that we just don't understand out there. But we sometimes forget about the fact that there's a lot of things here on Earth that we don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you go into the depths of the ocean.
Oh, yes.
Which is almost just as unmapped and terrifying as the depths of space.
For sure.
So speaking of which, the Mariana Trench,
Yes.
which is the deepest
Huge, yeah.
deepest part of the ocean, has apparently been for a long time. Strange sounds have been emitting from the trench.
Oh, we're listening now?
Not ominous, not spooky at all. In fact, I'm going to play you a clip here of the sounds that have been emanating. I apologize, Tessa, if you can't hear this, we'll try to insert this into the podcast later, but here's the sound effect.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, Tessa, you probably couldn't hear that at all, could you?
Yeah.
No.
It almost sounded, the way it was described is like almost like a metallic sound with what, like ending with a sound that people described as like spaceships from,
Yes,
like,
very spaceshipy.
from some kind of a science fiction show or something.
Yes.
The bio twang is how researchers have described this noise. Well, apparently this was found 10 years ago and has now been identified as a type of whale called Bryde's whales, Brydes.
All right.
So these noises apparently are made by these whales that were living in this vicinity, which, this is, I think, close to Japan. About 1,500 miles off the south of Japan is where the trench is. And these particular whales apparently have been emitting this sound in other areas, but not quite the same sounding. So they weren't 100% sure it was them, but did enough research over time to figure out, all right, this is the Bryde's whales that are actually making this particular sound. The interesting thing about it, though, I mean, it's interesting enough they did figure this out and it took them this long, is that it seems to be localized to a particular group of whales that are making this particular sound. And they said they're even potentially treating it as like a Marco Polo type sound. So
I see.
To locate one another.
Yeah.
But it's very specific to one group. So maybe it's just inherent to that particular, herd that are speaking
it's like their
to each
dialect
other
or something like that, right?
It's their regional biotwang, I guess. Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
It
That's
really
fascinating.
is. It really is. And again, it's one of those things that makes you realize like how insane the oceans are and how much we don't understand about what's happening in the deepest and darkest depths of the ocean. But we figured this one out. I think it's funny because if I had heard about this before, I would have been like, oh man, what's going on deep down in the ocean there? You know?
Yeah,
that's where the aliens came and hid.
War of the Worlds is popping out of there. Yeah,
they're waiting for their time to come out.
That's
and get
right.
us. But nah, it's just some whales.
Or they're just down there harvesting resources, and now we went down and stirred the pot.
Exactly. So that is what's tech connecting with us this week. Tessa Kohl with Epson. Thank you so much for joining us back on the pod today. Appreciate having you.
Thanks, Tessa.
Hey, folks, go out, check out Label Boost. Talk to your customers about how they can add some cool stuff to their boxes.
Yes.
And if you come across an interesting box that's got a cool label on it, send us a picture. We'd like to see maybe how this stuff looks in action and what people are doing that's a little above and beyond the standard boring label.
I like it. Yes.
As always, please stay connected. This episode of the TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Epson. All right, you've heard about the benefits.
Yes.
But in case you weren't entirely sold, Epson's Label Boost software can help grow your customers' business with increased engagement as well as reduce material and labor costs and streamline operations. Again, if you listen to this whole podcast and aren't sold on Label Boost, I don't know what
are you listening
what were
to?
You doing?
I don't think they were listening then.
You probably need to start over and listen again.
Yeah, I think so.
But just in case, to explain a little more, you can transform existing black and white shipping labels by adding full color coupons, targeted ads, secondary labels such as regulatory or shipping and handling labeling. Labels can also highlight critical information such as parcel count or expedited shipping to promote accuracy and timeliness of delivery. A software solution designed for hassle-free deployment, Label Boost allows the bulk of the label creation process to remain the same, modifying an existing label only at the very last step before printing. It works alongside existing shipping software, so delivery operations can run seamlessly. Label Boost software is compatible with most ColorWorks printers, ensuring labels are printed with exceptional image quality worthy of your customer's brand, or, again, your own.
Yes.
To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar Epson team. The TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Eloy. The M51 rugged mobile computer delivers a 6-inch Full HD touch display, Android 14 OS, and a powerful Qualcomm 6490 octa-core processor. Again, I don't know what that means. Sounds fantastic. Octa-core. It's got integrated NFC and an optional 2D barcode scanner. From enhancing retail store operations and warehouse management to ticketing, you can boost efficiency with the ELO M51 mobile computer. All right, let's talk about some of the features.
Yes, do.
ELO always packs their stuff with features.
Lots of features.
13 megapixel rear camera.
Nice.
An 8 meg front camera. Chemically strengthened glass. IP68 rated. It's got optional accessories including device and battery charges, rubber boots, scan trigger handle, and more. And of course, you get ELO's enterprise grade support for the security provisioning, OEM config, and much more. So to learn more and see additional specs on this brand new mobile computer, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar ELO team.